Hello, my name is Eli Martin, and I'm a product specialist with HLA Snow. Today we want to look at some of the differences between the new second generation EdgeFlex cutting edge system we have available as opposed to the original EdgeFlex components that we have been using up until this point. So the purpose of today's video is to help parts departments and customers in the field understand the differences in components between the two EdgeFlex systems. The technology is pretty well the same between the two. We're still using a rubber spring to push the edges down on the ground, and we're using a retainer plate. We're using a 12-inch wide cutting edge section, and they still travel independently up and down. So we'll go through some of the things that make this system different. So this is the original design. These retainer plates sit on top of the edge. There's a slot in the edge here. These round bushings go through the slot, and this is what gives you your travel up and down. So the retainer would stay rigid with the plow, and the edge travels up and down in behind the retainer plate. One of the scenarios that was happening in certain applications here was that as guys were plowing in areas where there was sand or grit or other foreign material on the plowing surface, sometimes that would get forced up in behind this retainer plate as they were plowing, and therefore hindering the cutting edge from going back down to the home position when they raise the plow at the end of a run. So what our design team has done to get around that is we've gone to a new retainer system where the retainer plate actually sits right up against the cutting edge assembly itself and never moves. So the bolt, the retainer, everything travels together. So any grit or foreign material that's coming up across the edge will just keep flowing, and there's nowhere for it to get stuck for that grit to keep the edge from returning back down. So most of these components are exactly the same technology-wise, but they will not interchange between the two systems. So in the initial system, we have the big rectangular retainer plate. That's your first clue that it is an original EdgeFlex. And then with the second generation, we have the formed retainer plate. It's a little smaller and formed around the bolts. So that's the two differences in retainers. On the edge themselves, the original edges had these slots. The bushings fit in the slot, and the edge traveled up and down. The bolts and the retainer and everything stayed rigid with the plow. On the new system, we have just a keyed hole in the actual edge itself. So the bolts go in through there. And now we have this keyed, hardened, heat-treated bushing that fits in the back side of this. That is keyed and only fits in there one way. And then we have another heat-treated, hardened retainer washer that is also keyed onto the bushing. And what that does is keeps this retainer in a vertical position. If that was to get off track or turn sideways in the back, it would be a hindrance to traveling up and down the way the cutting edge assembly is built in the back. So the gap here where this bushing is where your main plow cutting edge assembly, the edge carrier, would go. And all of this travels up and down together now. We still use a rubber block in this cavity. And all of this moves up and down together. And the slot that you see over here in the cutting edge has now been moved to the actual carrier assembly itself. So again, there's nowhere for grit or any foreign material to go here except to keep moving. And we've taken away a lot of the friction area for debris and grit to get stuck in. The cutting edges themselves still have a right and a left to them. So we're in both the new and the original system. We're still using this welded tab to close the gap between the wing and the main moldboard assembly. So you need one right hand, one left hand, and then the rest of your plow will all be just a plain 12-inch section, however wide your plow is. The rubber blocks themselves are the same material and the same technology, but they also are different sizes, so you can't interchange these between the two systems. So you'll also need to get the proper rubber blocks if you lose something or need replacements in the field. So that pretty much wraps up the differences from the original EdgeFlex system to the new style. If you have parts in your parts department or as an end user parts in your shop for the plows in your fleet, just be aware of the differences between the two. There are both types of plows in the field right now. As time goes on, more of our production will be moving to the new style, and so this is the parts that you're going to be more familiar with going forward. We will be supporting the original EdgeFlex style for the foreseeable future. You can always call the parts department at the factory or check us out at hlasnow.com for more information and help with replacement parts for all of your plowing needs.